Zach, hello. We're
Hello.
recording. I have some excellent news. This is going to be a very fun video. It's going to be a little bit different than our usual ones, but I think you're going to enjoy it. Um, this is going to be like actual literary analysis. So if that's the kind of thing
Sure.
you come to this channel for, my God, you've been waiting a while. But here it
Uh,
is.
Tom, all of my best theories are just literary analysis for 40 minutes and then 5 minutes of an assumption. So if we just do this without the 5 minutes of an assumption, I'm still on board. And
I
in fact, I bet based off of that literary analysis, we can make an assumption.
I think what you mean is 40 minutes of literary analysis interspersed with 1 hour of bits.
Yes.
And that's what this is going to be.
All right, I'm on board.
Before we get started, Zach, in the description of this video is the Yu-Gi-Oh video on the second channel if anyone wants to go and check it out. And this video I think is going to be fun. So if you want to like it, I would really appreciate that. I don't say that, but if you want to like this video, please do. I think it's going to be fun. Zach, the title of this video is The Problem with Time Travel.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm excited. Uh
Okay, hit me with it. Hit me with our starting
I
quote.
recently read Dune.
You recently read Dune.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I recently watched the second movie without seeing the first.
How was that experience?
It was pretty good.
We're gonna be talking about Dune a lot this video, but I promise it isn't a Song of Ice and Fire video. Uh,
Well,
um,
let's start with our framing device for the Song of Ice and Fire then, because that's we can jump through. I have some other time travel things I would love to talk about
oh yeah.
because time travel is a subject that I think is fascinating for writing.
Zach, you know what the opening quote is here. I think you're gonna love it. This is gonna be a fantastic. I think that if I gave you 3 attempts, you could figure out the opening quote is here. What's the
Three
opening quote?
attempts.
What's the opening quote to this video, Zach?
Is this the it's as if some cruel god it's like swept them away quote from the Bran chapter?
Oh, that's a ding for sure. That's on the list of things that I want to talk about. But no, the opening quote to this video is Hodor.
That was my second guess.
Yeah. This is gonna be fun. I want to talk like the time travel in A Song of Ice and Fire, um, is weird and not really much like most time travel in most universes.
Sorry, sorry, Tom. I have to interrupt you. I want to immediately pitch a different title for this video.
Okay.
I want the title to just be Hodor, and then on the thumbnail it'll say Hodor, and then the person that we put in the thumbnail to make it more engaging is Hodor.
Oh no. All right, I got a better pitch for you, okay? The title is Hodor.
Hmm.
The thumbnail says Hodor, but it's a picture of a horse.
It's a
we
picture of Euron Greyjoy.
we know this fandom. We know this fandom, Zach.
We can make it dumber. We can always make it dumber.
Mm-hmm. There's a picture of Hodor and the words Azora High with an arrow pointing at Hodor.
Yes. You know what?
What else? What else? Give
Okay.
me another one.
No, that's perfect. That's the thumbnail. That one will break our all-time record. We'll get 20,000 views in a week, and we will gain negative 40 subscribers.
That's it. That's our first 10,000 view video. All right, Zach. Um, I want to talk about the. I recently rewatched the Bran the Time God video, the Branos video, which I'll
Yes.
probably link in the description also. Um, and I'm pretty sure that continues to be my favorite video we've ever done. It's very good, and it's one of the few that's like properly well researched. Um, but there are
Yeah.
a couple of points in it that I don't feel that I made adequately, and I wanted to talk about some of those here. We're going to talk about some of the moral and ethical issues with time travel, especially the time travel surrounding Bran. Now,
I'm so excited because science fiction time travel short stories. I just love them so much.
Mm-hmm.
So like we're going to talk a lot about A Song of Ice and Fire, obviously, because that's what this channel is. But we're also going to talk about Dune, and we're also going to talk about like some Ray Bradbury and
I, yeah,
Robert Heinlein
oh,
short
oh,
stories.
I'm sorry. You said Ray Bradbury. My brain did not go to Ray. My brain went to wait. Hang on. Uh, Slaughterhouse-Five because that I wanted to talk about
Ooh,
Slaughterhouse-Five.
I want to talk about A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury and By His Bootstraps by Robert A. Heinlein.
Yep.
Uh,
You know what?
because I think those are all wonderful places to go.
Let's
I
go.
may have talked about By His Bootstraps a little bit in the first Bran time travel theory, but it's good to revisit.
Paul can see versions of the future in Dune. Um. Do you want to? Do you want to get our like supporting pieces like up in the corners right now?
Sure, yeah. Let's just talk about different time travel things. We like throw them on there and let's analyze through different angles.
Yeah.
Uh, and I want to put in By His Bootstraps. Uh,
In
our
by
main
his.
character
Yep.
uh, meets two different or multiple different versions of himself, uh, assuming different names.
And this was a core piece of your take on our time traveling Bran theory.
Yes, with a
Which
title I stole from RIG on accident.
yeah,
Uh,
which was hilarious by the way. Uh
the good news is we both laughed about it. Uh,
which by the way, your take on our time traveling Bran theory, I am of the opinion that your take is the best theory in the fandom.
oh, I thank you.
Mm-hmm. Time traveling
And
Bran,
then
I think is the best theory in the fandom, and that expands on it so brilliantly and beautifully that it's one of the best things to come out of this fandom in a long time, and I think you should be really pleased with it. Um, do we want to talk about? By the way, just to set the
um,
stage a little bit, um, Preston, Jacobs, time traveling Bran series is required reading for this course. So
yes.
if you haven't
Uh,
watched it, like I don't know what you're doing in this fandom.
I,
It is the best
I don't know
thing.
how you found this channel without watching that first.
Honestly.
I do. Another thing I want to throw up in the one of the corners is in A Sound of Thunder. A group travels back in time and accidentally rewrites world history when they accidentally kill a butterfly.
Is this the origin of the phrase butterfly effect?
Yes, it is,
Very cool.
or at the very least, it's often credited as it's. Um,
The
uh,
popularization of the phrase, perhaps.
yeah, the original term, there's two versions. Like, there's butterfly effect was a meteorologist in the 1960s talked about how like you could say technically a butterfly is like flapping would affect weather systems, and then it was sort of retrofitted around this story which came out earlier than that statement to mean like there's a temporal butterfly effect which we now use in like fiction discussion. So yes, that's where we get the butterfly effect from, sort of secondhand.
Very interesting. Okay. Um, and who are these two by? I'm sorry, by the way, for the folks at home. I'm finishing an ice cream cone.
uh, By His Bootstraps is Heinlein,
All right.
and A Sound of Thunder is Bradbury.
All right. And I want to talk about
Ooh,
Uh,
oh, you want to talk about Stephen King, don't you?
no, not Steve. Ooh, yeah, I do want to talk about Stephen King. Um, Stephen King's. Do I want to talk about that story? Do I want to talk about that
It
story, Zach? The problem with the, I'm gonna write up the other one while I'm pondering whether I want
yeah,
to talk about that other one. Um,
I feel like that's a good one to for where we're gonna go. It touches on some of the themes I feel like the story is gonna have
all
with the time travel in it.
right. In the meantime, the main character of Slaughterhouse-Five is eternally trapped in a time loop, living out all moments of his life simultaneously. Zach, you ever read Slaughterhouse-Five?
I have not read Slaughterhouse-Five.
It's a real mind fuck, dude. That shit's, oh my god. And like it's so weird, and it's made even weirder by the tone, which is really quite like, I don't know. The tone is almost like kind of positive, where
Yeah, it
the
says
main,
so it goes all the time, right?
yeah, yep, so it goes is the, yep, um where the main character has been in has been out of time for an infinite amount of time, and is sort of like, I guess it's, yeah, it could be worse. He's like, yeah, I like my wife, and I get to spend
Yeah,
time with her forever, but I'm also like watching the firebombing of Dresden forever, which is less fun. But my wife's pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a very strange book, and it's hard for me to recommend because it's so upsetting.
It's
but
it's almost a little too postmodern for its own good.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I adore that kind of writing, but there is a level where like it's just going to like for some people drive them mad more than it will fascinate them.
and we're since we're just getting stuff on the board, um I'm putting this over here. We need to talk about Helena Targaryen. This will be relevant later, but we will talk about
Yeah.
it. Mild,
Are you putting a Steve King novel up there? Stephen King novel
yeah,
up
I
there or
guess I
no?
am. There will
Okay.
be extremely mild spoilers for House of the Dragon in this video. Nothing serious. If you uh yeah, just like character motivation discussion, nothing crazy. Um
In House of the Dragon, in a future season, Helena Targaryen will have existed and might even continue.
yeah, yeah. Helena Targaryen has visions and will continue to have visions. Also, Daemon has visions, but we'll
Yeah.
talk about this later. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it later.
Or he's getting like Freddy Krueger nightmares.
Yeah,
One or the other.
I'm having trouble knowing whether Daemon Targaryen is having visions like Helena, or if she is being House of the Undying. Or if Daemon is being House of the Undying. Uh I'm leaning toward the latter, but we only got a couple episodes left in this season, so we'll see. Uh in 11/22/63, um the main character uh causes terrible uh uh causes apocalyptic occurrences by going back in time. repeatedly.
Yeah.
It's such a cool book. I love that book. Um,
And
it's
in
it's
all of these, sorry to interrupt. In all of these, time travel is a literary tool for a purpose to reinforce a theme.
it
And
is.
in that one, I think like it's one of the more clear and interesting ones.
Yeah. 11/22/63 is wild. Um, First off, the premise is extremely interesting. It's very Stephen Kingy, like something very strange is happening in this particular place. Um, have I told you the plot of this book, Zach? Like the mechanical plot?
Yes, literally, the person who is traveling back in time finds a like closet or something that like allows him to walk back in time,
Yes.
or like there's just a room he can walk in and then he's back in the 1960s.
There is a closet that he can walk into, um, that will always transport you back to the same day in 1958. Uh, which is remarkably interesting.
Yeah.
It's such a cool device. It's like a wardrobe that if you walk, it's always how it works. Um, and unsurprisingly, the main character decides to use this to attempt to change history, and over the course of it, it like fully becomes a romance, where he falls in love with like a school teacher from like 1961, and he like develops like a real relationship with her, and he ends up screwing up the he ends up screwing it up. He ends up screwing up the thing that he goes back to try to do. So he goes and does it again, and he falls in love with the same person again, and he succeeds, but like like partially destroys the world. So he has to decide whether it is worth it to go back and attempt to change things, uh or leave history as it is. It's a fascinating book, and it's really long. And Stephen King lies to you because he says it's a movie about it's. He says it's a book about like time travel shenanigans and like suspense, when in actuality it's a secret romance.
Yes, it's also an analysis of nostalgia.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah. Which we talk about in A Song of Ice and Fire quite a bit. Um,
yes,
there is a tendency to fondly remember the good things in the past and to allow the bad things to like slide off of your shoulders. And the main character is
and
like remembering the stories that his dad told him about how cool the cars were, and how the food tasted better in the 60s, and how the music was better and everything was fantastic. And he goes back and he's like, "Wow, people in the 60s sure did suck to black people, but man, is this ice cream good."
yeah, yeah. Some of the nostalgia is true. Some of the things that you're nostalgic about are correct, and there are also problems you were ignoring at the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a really
that's
it's a fascinating. I love that book. It's really good.
and that's a theme of a Song of Ice and Fire also.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like Arthur
the
Dane.
there are wonderful times, like, even if we're talking about House of the Dragon, there were like it was a wonderful peaceful time during the reigns of Jaehaerys and then Viserys, and also all the things that were going to make the war inevitable were boiling in the background, and everybody just didn't want to deal with them
Yep.
until it was too late and spilled over.
uh uh like my man traveled back to 1958, and that ice cream tasted incredible and the cars were pretty cool, but the cars didn't have seatbelts and the world was on the apex of nuclear war. Right.
Yes,
We were, I'm sorry, not the apex. What's the phrase I'm looking for? We were on like a turning point right before
yeah,
nuclear war.
yes, we were.
Uh
Hold
it,
on,
it's good. It's good. It's a good book,
I can
and
post
it
a
has a
message
lot of
to you.
similarities. And we will talk, and I'm glad that we've been talking around it. We're not going to talk explicitly about the like the nitty-gritty of the plot because YouTube won't like it, that's for sure.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
No,
Uh,
no, nope. YouTube hates this book.
so
Yeah, 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 yeah.
let's uh let's talk about like time travel as we understand it in Song of Ice and Fire, which is mostly from the Bad Dragon show. Is the only place where I feel like it's explicitly confirmed, but there's some like plausible moments where time traveling Bran may have already happened in the books. We just haven't had the reveal yet. So, but the main one is Hodor. We know from the show, if it is going off of something George told them, which is what the writer said, that Hodor is Hodor because he was time traveled by Bran.
Yeah. Um, I don't need to write that. We know this, right? We know this. We as a fandom know this. Um, if you're one of the wild people who is unaware of this development in HBO's Game of Thrones, Bran Stark travels back in time into the mind of Walder, young Walder, um, and implants in his brain the moment of his death, where Bran is screaming at him, "Hold the door." He destroys Hodor's mind. He destroys Walder's mind and turns him into Hodor. Um, uh, uh, if we assume that that or something similar to it will happen in the book, um, uh, uh, time travel, universe altering time travel is canon in the series, which
Yeah, and
makes
it'd
the
be really weird to
series,
only use it once,
yes, uh,
like a certain show did.
yeah, it would be strange if you gave a character the powers of a time god and decided not to use them. Ugh. Oh my god, it makes me sick. Uh, uh, there are a couple of other instances, and basically what we're about to do is run through the very basics of Preston Jacobs' time traveling Bran. There are a couple of other instances where time travel appears that it um may be existent. There's the one scene where John sees, in a dream, I think, John sees a weirwood with Bran's face, but the Bran of the current, and the face tries to talk to him, but the Bran of the current can't yet communicate through trees. He doesn't know how to do
Yeah,
that yet. So we assume that is a Bran from a little ways in the future who is warging back. Um, Similarly, when Bran is like flashing backwards through time when he's seeing like visions of the past, he tries to talk to Ned, and Ned, like, when he tries to talk, Ned like looks up and like looks around. And he's like, "Who's there?" Or and Bloodraven is like, "He can't hear you." Uh, but I assert that if Bran said "Dad," and Ned like looked up, and that was a coincidence, I'm asserting that that is some truly cheap misdirection. That is some bullshit. And
yeah,
George Martin does not do that shit. I'm not saying that it's time travel. It might be something else, right? It might be some other, like, it might be some other something. But if it's pure coincidence, I am asserting that would be bullshit. Yeah, is that reasonable for you?
yes, yes, absolutely.
All right, nice. Um, Now, would we like to go through the basics of our time traveling Bran theory?
The basics of my time traveling Brand theory,
No,
or ours,
ours, like
ours. Okay, so
the the
yeah, so
the
we
speed the
we
speed
we
running perspective.
we assert this a lot. We did a video recently that had this baked into it with time traveling Brand. The one I had about how Reed's wife
Oh yeah,
assumed our time travel was canon. Um, so yeah, ours is yours specifically is every time Bran has to go back in time, he has to go back and then reset everything and then do everything every individual time. That's why he becomes like unhuman by the end of it, is because he has to find a way to succeed. And that means if it requires somebody to die, he doesn't just need to go back and kill them once. He needs to go back and kill them every single time. So he's going to try 1,000 different things before he succeeds, which means he might have to kill somebody 1,000 times. And sometimes that person might be his father, or sometimes that person might be like a friend of his or an innocent person who he takes out just to make sure that there is a outcome that saves the world, or wins a battle that he is trying to win.
One of my favorite takes I ever heard. I think it was just in a comment on an Alt Shift X live stream some time ago, um, uh, uh, where someone posited the take where Bran is in that dream and he's falling from the tower and he's falling for a long time, and he looks down and he sees impaled on the spikes the bones of 1,000 other dreamers. Um, uh, uh, the person said, "What if each of those bones represents one long night cycle? Each of those dreamers is a Bran from a previous cycle, and each of those cycles is 8,000 years long, and he keeps on. He has to keep on doing this every single time. Every time he gets to the end and loses to whoever it is that he's losing to, uh, uh, there is a like he has to reset from the beginning. Just like my guy in 11/22/63, if he screws something up in 1962, he can't go back to 1962 and fix it. He can only go back to 1958.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that gives us a different perspective on Bran, doesn't it? Bran's a different guy if that is the case. Bran, not the current Bran, but the entity that is time traveling Bran is old, very old. Uh, uh, thousands, hundreds of thousands of years old at least. The bones of 1,000 other dreamers over 8,000 years makes him 8 million years old.
Yeah.
And I am inclined to say, if you are an expert speedrunner trying to get exactly the outcome that you need, you have not run a game 1,000 times.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to get to the point, if we're taking the speedrunning perspective, if there's only one outcome that gets you to that like perfect ending, Mario is the perfect example. We know at the
Wahoo!
very least theoretically, the in the original Super Mario Bros, the lowest possible speed you can get, the amount of like times you're gonna have to run to get there is an insanely high number.
Yeah.
Dragster also had like a like almost functionally guaranteed uh lowest score you could possibly get, and people were literally doing 10, 12 hours of attempts a day for something that took seconds until somebody got it, which was like crazy. But when you think of it on the scale of uh, if Bran has to start from a certain point over again to rewrite history, he also has to then, either jump from person to person or possess somebody else through thousands of years or hundreds of years. At that point, it's going to become almost mechanical to him, the things he needs to do.
Zach, you have identified the problem with time travel.
Yes.
You have identified the thing I want to talk about today. What's the
Go
problem with
for it.
time travel, Zach? The problem
The
with
problem.
Yeah, go ahead, hit it. Send me.
No, 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 no. You do it. This is your episode. This is you deliver the line.
The
Say the
problem
line.
the problem with time travel is when you time travel more than like 2 times, the people you interact with stop being people. The
And they start
analogy
becoming.
Exactly. The analogy that I used in the last in the time traveling Bran episode, I think is still quite apt. Uh, uh, once you start speedrunning, the penguin in the ice level in Super Mario 64 stops being a penguin. He's he
It starts being an
becomes,
object.
yes. He becomes something to glitch around, glitch through, or accelerate off of. Uh uh and if you can erase him, you will.
Yeah,
This is the problem with time travel. This is the problem with Dune. Dune, I loved Dune. Dune was awesome. Um, Dune.
it's on my Audible list. I haven't got around to it yet. I have a massive Audible backlog that I will 1 year clean out entirely in an exhaustive year where I'm doing nothing but listening to books.
Put it on your resolutions for next year.
Yes, you've identified one.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I
Um,
also have a ton of classic literature on that one, so I'm going to be like the most well-read motherfucker in the world after that one. This also
uh,
might be the longest I've gone without swearing in a video until right now.
the issue. So Dune is a political drama for like.
In space, but
Not. I
with
mean,
weird
I like.
brain powers.
I mean, like, I make the argument. So, okay, let me explain. That you saw Dune Part Two. Dune Part. I'm told that Dune Part Two, takes place after the turn of Dune One. Um, the first Dune book is split into three books. Book one, book two, and book three. Book one is 100% completely straight political drama. There is basically no magic. The only magic that exists is like, I don't know, like heightened senses and awareness and that sort of thing. It's very background magic. Um, no one's like levitating shit. There's one scary mage who's intimidating people, but that's really about it. It's a pure, fantastic political drama. So is the first half of the second book. And it doesn't really become, there's not even anything like overtly sci-fi really until the turn in book 2 and throughout book 3. When the main character of the first book fucking dies, uh and then the main character of the second book, his son, becomes a time god over the course of the second book. And then the third book, which is on Audible, is only like 3 hours long. It's only like 2.5 or 3 hours long. He's just a deity in the last one.
That's great.
It's very weird. It's just a strange decision that you have like this spy thriller that you decided to turn into like a sci-fi nightmare.
You can tell when the like edible kicked in during the writing
Yeah,
process.
yeah. I had this moment. I was talking to my small sibling about it. I was like, wait a minute. I could have just started at book 2. And you're like, no, the first book's important for Paul's motivation. I'm like, Paul's a god. What motivation does he need? He's a deity. He's a time god. You understand? He's a time god, right?
Yeah, if somebody was a senator for 6 years and then became a time god, the fact they were a senator for 6 years could be interesting. Like that's a full term in the
Yeah,
Senate.
yeah.
But the fact that they're a time god is way more important.
I want you to imagine Parks and Recreation, except at the beginning of season 3, right after she's elected to the council, she becomes a deity. My
Leslie Knope, time god.
my
Yeah.
my response is not I hated that political drama. My response is that political drama was a different show. Why did I read it? That was a
Yes.
different movie, guys.
And if you're going to have that be an important part of somebody's character, you can flash back to it
Yeah,
after they're already a time god.
which they do many times.
Okay, so you're 100% right. They didn't need the compelling political drama.
And
It's actually irrelevant the second somebody becomes a time god.
yeah, yeah, is
Wait,
like
sorry, George R. R. Martin. I have some bad news.
this is not me saying it wasn't fun. I did like it.
I, th-
But
I think I think the only justification for that is if it helps on a second read sort of thing, right? Like if you can see if somebody who can influence time in some way, uh then like the understanding I have is once we learn Brand's ability to go back in time and influence things, another read through of the series will be more fulfilling because we'll know in real time reading the second time around what Bran was behind, right? We'll
But
know when you read it without the twist, uh the things happen for in-universe reasons, but you can later see the like finger on the scale that a brand has put there to ensure things go in the right direction. There's uh there's some good like rewatches. We love Star Trek. It's fun watching Deep Space Nine, knowing when somebody gets swapped out for a changeling.
yeah, you know what? That's a
Uh,
really good point.
that adds some drama to it. There's a couple other shows I think that hold up on rewatch because it's fun to know when a the twist already, but now you can see the setup they did, and it's like, oh, they planned out ahead of time. It was very smart. You can see some of that in like other uh like prestige television shows do that a ton, where they
Oh, like
set up a
like
plot
like the
twist well ahead of
Prestige,
time.
like the Prestige television movie.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The Prestige is another great example of a movie that does this very well. The twist is amazing when you first watch it, and
Yep.
then watching it again, knowing the twist, uh, looking for all the hints,
Okay.
which again is like a magic trick sort of thing, because a magic trick is fun to watch just as a magic trick. It's shocking and surprising, and then it's fun to try and take it apart in your head and figure out what was happening behind it. So I guess the problem with time travel is it's how cheap it is. It's how
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
if
this is a
you
different problem with time travel, but let's talk about it.
if you if time travel is introduced and you have not sown the seeds, uh, it's
David
less
Dan.
exciting. Yeah. If you are going to have the ability for somebody to go back in time and change things in the story, you should either you know uh have that planned out well ahead of time or make that the central theme of the story.
Yeah.
Basically, if time travel is going to be there, you need to have planted seeds in the story before it's introduced, so people could go back and say, "Oh, all of these things are influenced by time travel, and it's really important." Or you basically need to Marty McFly it, where the time travel is the crux of the story in Back to the Future, and it's inseparable from the core of the plot entirely.
Dude,
You could not tell a compelling story. I mean, you could tell a compelling story with those characters, but you could not tell a story that's compelling in the way that Back to the Future is compelling without time travel.
I'm really glad that you said that because I
Oh, we should put Back to the Future up here.
for sure. Um
We love Back to the Future on this channel.
um uh
In Back to the Future,
time travel shenanigans are the main crux of the plot of Back to the Future. All right, we're like, hang on, we're like 4 tangents deep. I do need to
we
finish
are.
up on Dune before the comments like burn a hole through the bottom of the video. Um,
Yes.
I have first off, I have not read any of the additional books. I only read the first one. That's number one. Number two,
You haven't read the Dune Messiah?
no, I haven't read it. I haven't read the other ones. I'm told that they're interesting and worth reading, and if you enjoyed the first one, you should read them. But I haven't done it yet.
The
Um, hang on.
the Dune Messiah feature is the main character is the platonic idea of your girlfriend. Uh,
All
someone
right.
in the comments thinks it's really
Oh,
funny.
okay, Zach. All right, all right. I was trying to do this real fast, but you, like, I
We're
was
going.
like
I'm sorry.
guiding us through. I was like
We're
guiding us
doing a
through
100%.
this,
We're
like,
doing a 100% all bit speed run.
there's like spires on both sides, and I'm guiding us through. And you grabbed the udder, and you like spun us to the right, and now we're run up against a rock. Zach, you get go ahead. You got to explain this now.
It's the would you love me if I'm it's the would you love me if I'm a worm meme.
I have heard
Uh,
the worm memes. Yes.
yes. The idea that people can become worms is like a theme in every Doom book after the first.
Oh, perfect.
So every time I think about that, I think about the "But would you love me if I was a worm?" like meme that was popular a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that that's just a normal sentence in the Dune universe. That's not your partner being like overly dramatic. That's just like okay, pressing concern here. I need to know. Would you love me if I was a worm?
The Valyrians making their horrible chimeras saying, "Would you love me if
If
I
I was-
was a worm?" Dragons, worms, and would you love me if I was a dragons, worms, and wyverns? Anyway, hang on, we gotta follow the shock lines. Back up the path. Come on,
uh,
back up the cave.
Area Targaryen.
Would you love me if I was a worm with faces? Caraxes, would you love me if I was a bloodworm? Uh, uh. All right, just so that we have our Dune definition of time god down. Paul does not have the ability to travel back or travel forward, at least not at this point. I don't know how if that changes in the future. Um, but he does have imperfect knowledge of the past and present. If he concentrates, he can see in this very, very beautiful analogy for future sight. He has knowledge of the future and how things will play out if he acts in certain fashions, Doctor Strange style.
Yeah,
Yeah, he can look forward at different possibilities and see how they will work. And he compares it to like rolling hills or like rolling shifting waves on an ocean. He knows which way is north, but when you're in a trough, you can't see the crest of the next wave. Which is really quite a beautiful way of like there are periods of tumult of time travel confusion, like temporal confusion that he doesn't understand, and he can't see out of. It's a beautifully written book. I really like it. So when I say time god, that's what I mean. However, some things do still apply. Um, Paul looks forward, and I don't know if this is the case in the movie. Paul looks forward and sees like a universe altering war, like a religious war centered around him. Because he becomes like a prophet of a church, kind of. Um,
uh,
and uh, uh, he at the end of the book, the last turn, the last twist is that he has actively, consciously chosen to steer into that. Uh, uh, he has decided to steer into this like universe-altering war that is going to kill billions. Um, which makes him an asshole. Uh,
yeah.
and makes him responsible for all of that, I think. Um, and I would like to make some comparisons to Bran now.
Yes, go for it. Go for it. Hey,
Because
it's actually fun because I want to. I think we'll be able to go to all the different corners and compare Bran to all of them and use those as lenses to think about his character,
yeah,
and that's great.
yeah. Oh my god, it was great. I remember the number. I had 13 minutes and 22 seconds left on my listen through
Yeah,
of Dune 1, and I was having like an argument with my smallest sibling. I was like, no, Paul's not an asshole. Paul's like he sees this religious war like off on the horizon, but he has said quite explicitly, both internally and externally, he has said, I must avoid this at all costs. And then in the last 9 minutes, he turns and is like, no, I'm going in. Yeah, he ne-
Cowabunga it is.
yeah, cowabunga it is. Yep, yeah. So it's a wild twist at the end of the book, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, there's a monster child with all there's a 4-year-old with all of the knowledge of all of the witches of a cult for the last like 1,000 years or something. Uh,
Y- yes.
yeah, it's wild. I recommend it. And I can't stress enough, all of this happens, all the crazy shit that happens in Dune happens in the last like 4 hours of like a 20-hour book. The first like 12 hours are political drama. This book is insane.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
It's great. It's great.
I presume the movie I saw the is an adaptation of the last 4 hours of the book.
Yes, I am told that the second Dune movie all takes place after the turn, which is not half of the book, Zach. It is not half of the I'm told the second Dune movie is like is the Atreides war of insurgency that sort of happens on Arrakis. Am I correct in saying this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's like a couple of paragraphs. It's like maybe like 4 pages. It's we get to the last fight very fast.
It's impressive.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's great. I love it. I recommend it. It's a really quick read and it's fucking insane. All right, enough about Dune. Enough about Dune. Zach, why don't we go to one of your corners? Right. Just
Yeah.
to finish up my comparison with Paul, this concept of responsibility, the responsibility that comes with future sight and time travel is it cannot be understated. Um, if you have the ability to see the future, everything that happens is your fault. If you have the ability to see the future and you don't do anything about it, it's your fault. And Bran not only
Yeah.
has the ability to see the future, he has the ability to see the future and the past and go back and change it. Fucking
Which
asshole.
means he has infinite attempts to
Yes.
stop something from happening. Which, like, if you can see the future, that doesn't necessarily mean you can prevent it. It just means you can try, and
Yes.
you can try your hardest and still fail.
Yep.
Uh,
And
this
it, and if
this
you
is like a Doctor Strange thing too. Like he can
yes.
see the future, whether he's able to make that future reality prevent it is tough.
Yes.
There's a little bit of Donnie Darko in here too, but I've never actually seen it.
Neither have I. We
Where
should we should do that.
yeah,
I'm told it's good.
uh,
In the comments
as
below,
of that, it's like
give us the plot of Donnie Darko in 20 words or less.
it's one of the few film bro movies I haven't seen. I am a film bro, by the way. If that wasn't, you probably could have guessed that, but yes, that's on my list of movies I need to watch. By the way, that is going to be a second channel video I do for you. Is I'm going to go through the uh, what is considered the film bro pantheon and explain every single one of those movies to you, including the ones you've already seen.
I love it.
Uh,
I'm excited.
uh,
And you can watch that, but only after you've watched the 8-hour Yu-Gi-Oh video that is in the comments.
yes, it is.
In the description rather. It's in the comments too. Somebody put it in the comments.
Yes. Um, let's talk about. I want to talk about by his bootstraps,
Yeah.
uh, because that's another thing that if Bran is time traveling multiple times and messing with multiple things, he is going to see the consequences of his own decisions, and he's going to have to do things to like set himself up basically. And by his bootstraps is a perfect time loop where we meet uh, the main character meets a time traveler who shows up to his time, which is him, and then gets into a fight with another person who is also him, and then he goes into the future to meet a man named Dictor, who seems to be like this horrible person ruling over the world, and then he becomes Dictor, trying to prepare himself to take on Dictor when he shows up. It doesn't even quite realize that he has done it until like basically the moment he was supposed to go through. And then he ends up being an old evil man who talks to his past self creating a perfect loop where he sets himself up to do exactly what he has done. So he was also the two people who get into a fight. He was the person who went and tried to dissuade himself from traveling in time, and then he went after realizing that did not work and got into a fight with him. It's a perfect loop of time where he interacts with himself multiple different times.
Ah, hell.
And
If we're doing this, I'm putting down Bill and Ted.
oh, yeah, you're right. Uh, because Bill and Ted also meet themselves.
What is his name? What is George Carlin's name in that movie?
Oh, hold on.
What is his name?
I'm
Rufus.
looking it up.
Rufus.
Rufus. You're right.
Um,
They never learn Rufus's name.
which is one of the funniest, like that fascinated me as like a teenager, where like I drilled into it so hard. uh Bill and Ted learn Rufus's like they are introduced to Rufus by Bill and Ted from the future. Like, oh, this is Rufus. Rufus is awesome, man. And then Rufus comes over to them, and then the two that just got introduced in the future introduce the next iteration to Rufus. Bill and Ted never learn
Yeah.
Rufus's name. It's amazing. Anyway, carry on. I'm sorry.
So, uh, what's interesting about this, and this is one I establish in the Bran is like undoing his own past. Like, if he if he can, we're not like 100% certain of the time travel rules. We have like some suggestions of it seems to be it's obviously weirwood related. He can go into the minds of people in the past, but is it possible for him to be controlling two people at once? We don't know. Is it possible? Like yours assertion would be probably not. My assertion is we can't know for sure. Uh, it's possible that he is going to have a problem that he runs into that he like undoes, and then later he realizes that he has like undone something that he actually intentionally did in another level of time travel. If we get really like crazy and postmodern with it. Uh
Oh, hell yeah.
like he stopped somebody from killing only real or from being killed only realized he was the one who like needs to kill him, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about that, uh not just as a story thing, but in By His Bootstraps, it's about how I've always read it as a metaphor for how you will change as a person with the passage of time, how you will regret some things you did, how you will do some things with a certain outcome in mind, and it will lead you down a very different path that makes you a different person. Because he becomes the person who will become Dictor to stop a person like Dictor from taking over. Because that person like rules the world, and the world he inherits is not great. And it's his name's Dictor. It's clearly like aping off the term dictator. He doesn't want to become the dictator of Earth, but in preparing himself to stop somebody else from doing that, what does he do? He becomes that exact person.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Time travel is a lens of like how you will change and become a different person. I think is really compelling. Also, if we want to put Bill and Ted on there, Bill and Ted uses its like time travel plot a little bit to talk about personal growth. That's actually also how it's done in the third Bill and Ted movie, which I don't know if you've seen.
Oh, it's great. I love it. A lot of people hate on it. I think those people are stupid.
I, I like every single Bill and Ted movie. It is my opinion that there's no bad Bill and Ted movies. The second one's good too. You can fight me in the comments.
Yeah, the second one's a lot of fun. Um, I think that the
Yes.
third one is better than the second one. But the third one makes me want to cry. So, you know.
I, I wish they had some more goofy adventures, but I understand why they wrapped it up the way they did.
Yeah.
I do like Jay from Red Letter Media said that there should have been a Bill and Ted movie where they become werewolves. Uh,
Why? Why?
He said the fun of Bill and Ted is that they're like well-meaning but not especially talented or intelligent dudes trying to just do the right thing in weird supernatural scenarios.
Uh-huh.
So one of his pitches was it'd be really funny if they became like werewolves and had to deal with that. And we're trying to be like, the nice but not particularly like, special and talented people dealing with something that like major and disruptive in their life would be fun to watch.
Zach, I have
Which, to be
fantastic.
fair,
Oh, go ahead.
I think there's a spin-off called Werewolves of What We Do in the Shadows. What We Do in the Shadows is a story about a bunch of like uh,
Just
average everyday people who are vampires, and it is fucking hilarious.
oh my god, this is we're kind of describing the basic pitch for my my magician show. Where
Oh yeah,
a lot of like magical and mythical creatures are just like living normal lives in society. This is also a
wait,
lot of the
have you
like
read American Gods?
well, yes, but this is also it's wild that American Gods and the Dresden Files come up next to each other in our discussions a lot. But
Yes.
this is also like a very common subplot in the Dresden Files. There are just very normal. The leader, I think, is called Billy. Billy and Georgia are the leaders of a pack of werewolves who are just like normal guys. They like work very regular jobs and like do normal things. And sometimes Harry has a problem like fighting a nest of vampires, and he's like, "Hey guys, will you help me?" And they're like, "Oh, we got you, bro." They're very regular guys. It's amazing. Uh, uh, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, what I was gonna say, is I have great news. The pitch you're describing is sort of the an American Werewolf in London. Is sort of,
Yes, which
yeah,
I also adore. Although that's a darker turn on it,
it
where
is. It is. That
he
one
can't
takes itself
control being a
seriously.
werewolf. Yes. Eventually takes itself seriously. Yes. Uh, and uh, I think that like time travel is a lens for Bran, like losing his childlike innocence and joy and like desire to learn things and becoming a cold, calculating machine who is always just gunning for a specific outcome. And I think that like validates my interpretation of it, where Bran realizes he's undoing things that he like is doing in the future. He has time to become this like cold, uncaring person, only seeking one particular outcome. And then he gets to live that outcome, gets some regret, and gets some time to ruminate on it, and then eventually becomes convinced he did the wrong thing and is playing a game of chess against himself. I think is an interesting way to view it, and that can look at themes of regret, themes of uh, wishing you could undo the things you did, and then he actually has the capability to go back and do it.
Yeah.
If Bran is able to be a time god, who he is as a character and how that changes him is the thing that matters the most for the rest of the story. Everybody else can still be a compelling and interesting character, but if we don't care about Bran and he is a time god, you have failed as writers, the writers of HBO's Bad Dragon show. I wag my finger.
um,
You made somebody a time god and they couldn't give a shit. George R. R. Martin wouldn't do that. That's probably why the books are taking so long, because he has
yeah.
to make us give a shit about a
I
time god.
I actually wanted to talk about this. I think that that is one of the reasons that the Winds of Winter is so difficult to write, because there is time travel. There are time travel knots that you need to work out. Do you remember the first time you ever read Harry Potter 3?
Yes,
How confusing that one instance of time travel is?
it's worth noting that that was such a headache that not only did they never do it again, they never even like thought of bringing it up as a possibility again.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the author went out of her way to destroy all of the time turners so that it wouldn't come up again. She made it a plot point that all the time turners got destroyed in the fifth book. So that, and then she references it. You're like, oh well, all the time travel mechanisms are destroyed.
We can't use
Whoops.
that as plot
Yeah,
device anymore.
that can't happen again. It does make a person wonder why uh like Voldemort was trying to break into the Department of Mysteries to steal like love. I'm sorry, to steal the prophecy, to steal Harry's
Yeah.
prophecy, and not to steal all of the time turners.
Uh, there's a
There,
wonderful internet only musical with this plot.
what? Wait, what? Is this the plot of Potter
I think
Power Pals?
no, it's I think a Harry Potter musical 2 is they just steal the time turners and go back to win Voldemort's war the first time.
Wait, actually, now that I think on it, I think this is the plot of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, but it sucks. So, uh,
Yeah,
you know. I'm
like,
sorry. I'm sorry. I broke the rule about. We all agreed not to talk about J.K. Rowling. I'm
I know
sorry.
I was I was trying to find a tasteful way to make fun of her without
Hey, I got
without
this.
completely derailing the episode.
I got this, dude. That's a bad plot device.
Yeah,
That's
you
a
know,
bad plot device. It's such a bad plot device that she had to
in
destroy them all.
in the worst part, JK, is if you had a time turner yourself and you could go back and undo any part of your writing, it probably wouldn't make the top 100 now.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, we were all wild that was the insane thing that you wrote that we were all willing to accept.
Yeah. Honestly, there was a point in your career where that if there was one like thing you should have never written, it was that plot point. And
Yeah.
now it doesn't even show up on the radar.
Yeah, that there was a point where that was the low watermark.
It's
Oh,
amazing. It's so much
well,
easier to sink than it is to fly.
yeah.
I guess
Uh,
I guess that's why there's more planes at the bottom of the ocean than there are submarines in the sky.
what a what a what wonderful poetry, Zach. Is that off the top of the dome piece?
No, I've heard people say that is a statistics thing. Uh, there's more um, planes in the ocean than there are submarines in the sky.
That was
Really, the reason that's true is because of gravity. I don't
yeah.
know how especially poetic that is.
No, you said it's
Gravity and
easier to
pilot error.
like I you could put that like you could that's a on Zach's quotes calendar where it's like a tearaway calendar where you have a
Coming
quote a day.
coming to our coming to our merch shop soon. The
Yeah,
wisdom
coming
of the Interesting Nerd Club.
coming to the soon to be a real thing nerd store.
It'll be a calendar with different thoughtful quotes from us.
Yours will be thoughtful THOUGH. Mine will be thoughtful THOT.
We're an hour and change in this recording, and it is just us rambling about time travel plots that we like and dislike and
Yeah,
comparing them to Brad.
yeah,
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know what you were. I don't know you thought this video was
Tell,
gonna be.
tell me your Slaughterhouse-Five like lens here for Bran.
Oh, the Slaughterhouse. Okay. Um, the I bring up Slaughterhouse-Five. I'm gonna do like one of these. This is in response to to a criticism I know I'm going to get. Um, a person who exists throughout time. Um, a person a person yeah a person who exists throughout time. There's better ways to phrase that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Is divorced from any sense of human morality as we understand it. I think that
Um.
that is a
The
very fair
non
sentence.
The Bajoran prophets makes me think of
Oh,
the
sure.
wormhole
Yep.
alien.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. The wormhole aliens. Yep.
They don't understand our concepts of morality because we're linear and they're not. So the
You know,
idea that
I'm.
the idea that like of killing somebody being wrong, we understand because it's linear. That person stops existing. But to somebody who's non-linear, their death was always going to be that way. So like it's not viewed with the exact same lens.
This has never occurred to me before, and I would have to look it up. But I would be willing to wager that the aliens from Deep Space Nine are a sidelong reference to the aliens from Slaughterhouse-Five. Uh,
I wouldn't know, but that wouldn't surprise me either.
the main character of Slaughterhouse-Five is ripped out of time, because he is abducted by aliens. And the aliens do experiments on him and give him like an external perspective on his own life. And he is like lodged there. He's there forever. Um, uh, 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 like consistently like pinging, like basically jumping from random point to random point throughout his entire life forever. Um, uh, 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 and he, the main character, can remember every single moment that he's ever gone through, but he can never express it because he only ever does the things that he does. You know, does that
Yeah.
make sense? Right?
Yes.
He will never do like when he's I don't know, when he's like 17 signing up for the Air Force. He never does anything other than sign up for the Air Force because that is the thing that he does at that time. Um, I think that people are going to have a problem with this. Bonk bonk. People with future sight have a different sense of morality than people who do not. Um,
Yeah.
because they will act in ways that seem cripplingly immoral uh, to people who don't have future sight, like what Bran does. That is, Bran. We discussed this in the last video. Bran allows the red wedding. Uh,
Yeah.
Mathematically, he has to. That is the thing that he
if he,
does.
if he is capable of going back in time and preventing things, and he has a personal invested interest in preventing his brother and mother from being slaughtered, he must necessarily be choosing to let it happen,
Exactly. Um, and I think
even if
that
he's not personally like getting the ball rolling. If you have an infinite amount of time travel and you go back and you know don't kill a famous dictator, you're letting them live and come to power. Which, as soon
yes,
as you have infinite shots at it, basically 100%, like you were cool with it.
and this is
It's
something.
not like you had one shot and like you had to try something else, sort of thing. He has infinite time to see what happens when he does and doesn't kill somebody.
Yes. And this is something that the secondary character, the person who owns the like wardrobe, um realizes that he's had this wardrobe for like 30 years. And the only thing he's ever done is go back to 1958 and buy beef at 1958 prices and bring it back to 2012. Um that's the only thing he's ever done with the time machine.
Yeah.
So he gets high quality 1958 farm raised beef at 1958 prices, and he's able to sell it at a discount. And he has this realization when he's like 70 years old. He's like, oh my god, I could have done so much good, but I didn't. It's really funny. um and this must needs be the case for anyone with time travel, right? If like he realizes, oh my god, it's all my fault. I could have stopped it, any of it, at any time, at no cost, and I didn't. Instead, I bought high quality beef at low prices. It's a great book. It's real.
Yeah.
If you, I like to say, This is something I borrowed from Bill Nye, and I like to say a lot. If you buy the premise, you buy the bit, and it's a tough premise to buy, but if you buy it, it's a great book. The main character meets the cast of the movie It halfway through that book. And it's completely irrelevant to the plot. It's amazing. But the reason that I bring the reason that I bring up Slaughterhouse-Five is I suspect that people are going to do one of these. They're going to say, "Hey, doesn't that mean, like, are you asserting that Helena Targaryen is a morally bankrupt actor in the universe because she has looked forward and she has seen all of these things that are going to happen? Are you saying that these things are you saying that the dance is her fault because she looked forward, she saw the death of Jaehaerys, and she appears not to have moved to change it?" I say no. I say that is not the case. I assert that Helena Targaryen is Slaughterhouse-Fiving. I think
Yeah, she exists at all times in the moment.
yes.
And in the show, the time travel or time viewing might work differently than it does in the books, or she might just have a different like gift and power. She is capable of seeing. She is at her. She is at her birth. She is at her death. She is at her wedding. She is at the birth of her child. She is at the funeral. She is at a birthday party. She exists in all these places at once.
Yep, and
She
she's
sees it all from her
yes.
perspective.
Yes, she is getting flashes from every moment in her entire life and moments outside of her life all the time. Um uh uh so no, I do not like she's like Jojen, right? She is able to foresee but not change. Um which is very interesting and also terrifying. Uh and I like it. And I love her as a character, and she makes me want to cry. I'm reminded of the quote from Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda. Have we done this quote, Zach?
No, I don't think we have.
Quote one. Look at the variety of stuff we have on this page, Zach. One often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it. This is a turtle. um
It's also Oedipus a little bit.
yes, yep, it is kind of Oedipus-y. Yes. Wait, I would like to rephrase that, please.
Yes,
Uh
please don't say Oedipus. It's what Damon was getting into in a recent episode.
No! I am deceased. I have died. Oh my god. Oh. Woo! All right. Oh my god. Okay. I love this show. I'm glad we do this. This is better than almost anything else I do in my life. This is way more fun. Oh, hello,
Yes.
cat. Zach is Gray Cat. Say hello to Gray Cat.
Oh, hello, Gray Cat.
So yeah, I think that Helena is Helena can see but can't change. And I know that there's going to be a nerd, right? There's going to be a nerd who says that if a person can see, they can change. Go tell that to the main character of Slaughterhouse-Five. Because I would have taken the same position, and then I read that book, and being trapped in that space, knowing that these are the only things you will ever do, is the worst kind of nightmare to me, and I think that's what Helena Targaryen is living through right now. And I love her, and I'm
It'll be interesting to see
yeah.
how the show interprets that if we ever get to see like her perspective of things.
Yeah, I could be wrong about Helena. But this is definitely what I think Helena is going through. She's being
uh,
Slaughterhouse-Fived. I recommend the book. It's
I
not for the
totally
faint of
believe
heart.
that.
Oh boy. All right, Zach. All right. I'll pass back to you. That's the some of my time travel talk. Why don't you do some time travel talk?
Let's, uh, A Sound of Thunder, I think, is an interesting like lens too, because it could be if Bran is going back and like doing things multiple times, it might be that like he keeps doing things unintentionally. Like he goes back and okay, well, let's just go back, and this one person is the biggest like drag on our chances to win. So I'm just going to go back and kill this one person, right? Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
And then he goes back, and then it's like, well, because you killed like Cersei, this other person took over King's Landing, and they were actually like way more incompetent and like blundered all the food, and then we had fewer people to or whatever or something of that sort, um or it's the opposite where actually this person was too competent, but because they were too competent they didn't need to ally with us. They had King's Landing basically locked down entirely, so there's a ton of people we could have got to fight in the war who were there, and they were well supplied and they were well fed, and they just completely set out the war until it was too late. There's no amount of convincing we could do to get them to come out because we had nothing to offer them,
I
sort of thing.
I get locked
Uh,
down.
I'm gonna get up again. Uh, so the A Sound of Thunder is about stepping on a butterfly and that leading to a fascist dictatorship, which feels like a bit of a stretch because the butterfly was notably around at the same time as the dinosaurs. So it's weird that particular butterfly had an effect. But the person who was elected was somebody who existed in our previous timeline. So it's a real delayed effect from that butterfly. That was always my complaint with the story. But I love the concept of it. The tiniest little mistake, the tiniest little change back in time can have like cascading influences. And I think that could be an interesting thing for Bran to try and realize is, I'm trying to do the right thing, but it's hard to tell in the moment what the right thing is.
Hell yeah,
If
Zach.
you if you
Is it
want to
time
think
to talk
about
about Back to the Future?
yeah, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
Back to the Future is sort of like the Sound of Thunder. If instead of stepping on a butterfly, you hit on your mom.
That movie, the plot of that movie is insane.
Have you
Zach,
heard the John Mulaney bit about it?
I have, but if you want to hit me with a couple of lines, you can go right ahead.
No, I think if you haven't heard John Mulaney's Back to the Future bit, look it up as soon as
Yeah.
you're done with this video.
If
It's
you
very good.
if you haven't heard John Mulaney's Back to the Future bet, Damon Targaryen loves it.
So you're gonna call the movie Back to the Past? No, we're gonna call it Back to the Future. So, but they go back to the past. Yes.
you know, he tries to fuck his mom. Damon.
Amen.
Oh man. Oh my god. I I love this franchise. It's so stupid.
Yes.
Zach, is it time? Is it finally time to talk about your Back to the Future pitch in a video?
I think we talked about it on a couple live streams before. But not a main channel video, which is my pitch that Robert Zemeckis actually has a um DeLorean. He does not actually have the rights to prevent them from making a new Back to the Future film, and he's constantly going back in time to prevent people from remaking Back to the Future. And it's about somebody investigating that and trying to stop him.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is your pitch for Back to the Future 3. Back to the
to
Future 4.
four. technically it's its own independent film, like a um, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, or a what's the new Matrix called that doesn't, where all the Matrix movies are movies, but then turns out the whole world is the Matrix.
It's like uh
The Matrix Resurrections.
yeah,
It's the newest Matrix
it's the
movie.
Matrix Reanimator.
Yes, that's the one.
You gotta yes and me.
No, I just guessed without an and. I don't know. I don't know where to go off of the Reanimatrix,
Ooh, that's pretty good.
because
I
there's
would
the
watch that.
Animatrix.
Yeah,
Uh,
if it's time for the Matrix 4, it's time for Back to the Future 4. And Robert, Mr. Zemeckis, we're here. We got you. Saving Back to the
the,
Future.
just because the Matrix Resurrections was a critical and commercial flop doesn't mean this one will be.
Hey,
We don't have. We're.
it was fun. I liked it. It's
I
better
haven't seen
than
it.
Matrix 2 or 3.
Uh, that's not a particularly high bar to clear.
Yeah,
Also, come on,
it's true.
Matrix 2 has that one fight scene that's really cool.
Yeah, that's
Nothing
true.
else good happens, but it has that one scene.
But the Matrix 4 has Neo living a domestic life as a computer programmer.
That's pretty good.
It's
That's a very believable job for Keanu Reeves.
it's actually really funny. The fourth Matrix movie is hilarious, and I like it a lot.
Keanu Reeves looks like he would be a manager at like a programming like company.
Yeah, he's a video game designer,
Yeah,
but he's inside the Matrix. He's been like recaptured. Anyway, Back to the Future 4. Hit us up. Um,
Robert Zemeckis, I know you're a subscriber. Reach out. We will. I will write it for you.
uh, so we've touched on most of the things that I want to touch on. The problem with time travel for me, like the problem with there being time travel in the story, is that who anyone who can freely move through the timeline of a universe is a monster within that is a monster to the denizens of that universe. Even if they're working for a greater quote unquote greater good for that universe, the denizens of that universe will never see them as anything but a monster. Imagine like we talk about Undertale a lot. I am not a fan, but that doesn't mean I don't think it's interesting. Um,
I'm gonna make you play it again, and you'll be a fan by the second time you play it.
uh
I
huh,
swear to God.
um, the
Give me one piece of media that takes 7 hours to consume, so I can hold it against you as leverage,
uh-huh.
and I'll do it.
Okay. Uh, the I want you to imagine how you are right how you are perceived by the denizens of the Undertale universe. Now I don't mean your character,
Yeah,
I mean you, the individual. Uh 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 it's terrifying is how it is. It's a nightmare.
yeah,
You are a nightmare to those individuals. Uh 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 like I want like imagine how like Cheese, the Mario speedrunner. Imagine how Cheese is perceived by Toad. Not Mario. Imagine how Cheese is perceived by Toad in the Mario
yeah.
universe. It's not good.
And also, this is actually kind of perfect for Bram, because another theme of Undertale, and especially Deltarune, which I think you would like more, is you as the player taking away the agency of the character, which a lot of video games don't really talk about. But Mario, in when you do a Mario speedrun, was living a normal life, presumably in the world. Mario didn't just start to exist because you played the game. Mario is a regular person who is now being controlled by you, some guy in a different universe with a controller, right?
Yeah.
Like, he is not in control of his own body at the time. This is like we're looping back to Hodor now.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Hodor is being played.
In Deltarune, this is one of the things that I think would make you love it is the first time you save, it's not a blank save file. you are overwriting a save file with the name of the character you're playing.
Oh, that's baller.
Yes.
It's a shame the game sucks.
You haven't played Deltarune, you might enjoy it. Uh, also, the thing that frustrated you about Undertale is irrelevant or less relevant in Deltarune, so you might actually enjoy it.
uh,
But which is the combat system is whether you spare or kill everybody does not meaningfully impact the gameplay as much.
you know what?
So
You know what's funny? At the end of Dune, I actually compared with my smallest sibling. I compared it to the end of Undertale, where the last like 2 or 3 hours are the author saying, haha, you fucking idiot. But none of that mattered, you dumbass. You didn't know there was fucking time travel. You didn't know there was a deity hanging out the whole time, you dumb shit.
yeah, well, later there depending on the past you can find out. It turns out it does matter, but it's I'm not gonna, in case I do successfully convince you to play it again, I'm not gonna pull reveal the game central conceit.
uh,
The comments are gonna be agreeing with me that you need to play it again.
is that the
So
game that goes do 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 do?
do yes. Uh that's the game. That's what it's
Look,
famous for.
look,
It's actually that is
motherfucker.
true. That is it's
If
famous for.
if
Uh,
you get 10 hours into Game of Thrones and you're not into it, you're you have my permission to leave. And I got 10 hours into Undertale and the game told me to eat a dick. And I was like, well, all right, have a good one.
uh
the,
I will
the game
dispute that.
looked
I'll
me in the
dispute this.
face, called me an asshole, and called me stupid. So I hung up.
I will dispute this in a future video, not on this channel, on that second channel. We'll do that. But
Oh,
in the
man.
meantime, I want to talk about like this is another layer for the time travel. I think about that too. Like in a video game, you possess somebody. You, the player, possess somebody, and Bran is kind of like he's possessing Hodor to do things that Hodor was never going to do otherwise.
Yes.
Not
Yep.
technically, like, well, like I mean, he does literally do that, but also by going back in time and giving him the directive to hold the door, he completely changes his life.
Yep.
And if he is going back and controlling other people, he's not giving them any amount of agency whatsoever. He is robbing them of that. They are puppets to him. And that is like crazy because they had a life before that. And if he like stops mind controlling them or influencing them afterwards, they go back having had a point where they were not themselves. And then they have to live with that. They have to live with them making a bunch of choices and actions they did not make. They did not have the agency or control to make. And that's fascinating. And I
Oh,
think that there's a lot you can glean from writing that perspective.
yo, this is how the universe hopping works in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Where people from the other universes and other timelines pop into the minds of the people from the current timeline and like erase their existence for that period of time. Cool. We're just talking about so many good like universe hopping and time travel and future sight pieces of media right now.
Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a really good take, Zach. I think that like that is a monstrous thing to do to anyone or anything. You are a nightmare. You are uh oh my god. You
there's
you you
there's
are
no
you are
way
you are the worst kind of SCP.
there's no way to be a good person while mind controlling somebody. Well, okay, maybe that's not true. Like I suppose you could mind control like somebody who's like about to kill somebody and like have them go home, but you aren't necessarily like there's a moral like fraud in
Yeah.
controlling somebody else and
Yeah,
denying
there
them
is.
agency. And literally going into their head and inceptioning something is like one thing, but like literally taking full control over their body is like a pretty obscene violation. And then you're going to talk about things like uh, if we interpret some of the things that people in on time traveling Bran, if he goes in and he gets Joffrey to change his mind and execute uh, Ned Stark because he needs to for the time to work, what impact does that have on Joffrey? How much of his like madness and like bad behavior afterwards can be explained by the fact that he did something that he doesn't understand why he did that had fatal consequences? Because that is the exact sort of thing that does mess with you. It does mess with your mental health, does change the kind of person you are. When like think about like people, the trauma they feel after like they hurt somebody in an accident. Like people like cope with that in all sorts of like dark and terrible ways. Imagine Joffrey if he doesn't understand what came over him that led him to uh, yell that out because it literally did not come over him. It was a time traveler messing with him. How he is going to try and deal with that? How he's going to try and understand that?
Yo, theory pitch. Um, uh, 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 Patchface's mind was damaged not by the sea, but by Bran possessing him to get him to sink Stefan Baratheon's ship.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, yeah, he Hodored Patchface. He Hodored Patchface, uh, and then sent Patchface scuttling all around the ship, cutting lines, knocking shit over, stabbing people in the thigh, just enough to get the ship to founder. Founder? Do ships
Yeah.
founder? I feel like ships founder. Anyway, to get the ship to sink. That's fun. That's a fun theory.
Yeah. That's an incredibly good theory.
Yeah, yeah. He is a terrible dark god. And I wanted to make one more comparison to Dune, where Paul, because he has future sight, he's called the Kwisatz Haderach, I think, um, which is like their messiah, their like Arrakis's like prophesied hero or something.
Yeah.
Um, and this starts a cult, and this cult starts a religious war, spreading the one true faith of Paul, or whatever it's called. Um, isn't which gods are Bran?
The old gods, at the very least,
Yeah, for
possibly
sure.
all of them.
Right? Isn't Bran all the gods? Are versions of Bran all the gods? Is Bran R'hllor?
It's impossible to tell at the moment. It could be that uh other and then there's like multiple like if there's another person messing with time in the past, if there's many people doing this, somebody else could be R'hllor, right? Or it could be
Yeah,
that gods have certain power, or like certain people have certain powers that are seen as sort of being similar to gods, and the ability to send messages and control people back in time is Bran's power, which is understood as the old gods. And somebody else might have other powers that have some sort of temporal aspect. Maybe being able to get visions of the future, like Melisandre does, is a different uh, makes her part of a different deity or something like that that people internalize as R'hllor, right?
yeah.
Because
Like
uh,
like dead ass. What if that's Euron? Or what if that is
yeah, exactly.
what if that is Bran from much further in the future? Like that's 10 million-year-old Bran as opposed to the old gods, which are 100,000-year-old Bran. Yeah, and I want to hammer that home. The natural conclusion to this theory, which you just highlight, is that Bran is the old gods. The entire presence of the old gods is Bran. Uh, the things that they worship, like the thing that the worshippers of the old god, when they cut somebody's throat in front of a weirwood tree, they are sacrificing to Bran. Him.
And they're
That
showing him. Well, that and by doing that, he gets to see, right?
yes.
He gets to determine, and I suppose that way there could be like an intervention. Theoretically, if Bran can see through every weirwood, killing somebody in front of a weirwood is a great way for him to glean information. Because if he needs to figure out, okay, I've got to stop, I need to do something, who is useful being alive, he can see people who are being killed and say, well, hold on, I gotta see what this person's capable of, right?
Ooh. Cool shit. Cool shit. So that's the problem with time travel. The problem with time travel is the moment you start time traveling, you stop being a person. And so does everybody
Yeah.
else. The second you start speed running the game Hades, the gods stop being characters and start being objectives. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, the game Hades might be an interesting comparison because they are actually immortal deities, and Zagreus is actually doing this forever. That's like him doing these runs is what he does, and he knows it, and he is aware of the fact that he is doing these runs infinitely. Huh. And he is aware that changing little things each run slightly shifts the end goal that he needs to get to and gives him more information for the next run. Huh. Have you played Hades?
Yeah. I have little Hades.
It's really good. The second
Yeah.
one's coming out soon. I don't want to play it. This is not relevant. I just like that game.
It's a
Zach,
good game.
I don't know. Is this our show?
I think that's our video.
Zach, if the folks at home, if you like this, please like the video. Then drop a comment. Argue with me about Dune and Undertale. I'm excited about
Yeah.
it. Tell us some of the instances of time travel in media that you are either fond of or really don't like. Because I find both of those things interesting. If you want to have your cool name in the background, if you want to be cool, like the people in the background, have your name back here, like Eamon and Sergio and Zelazor and Cool. You can subscribe to our Patreon if you want to. It'll be in the
Yeah.
description too. Zach, what do you got to add? You got anything to add?
That's it.
All right, end on something funny.
Okay, so if Bran goes back in time far enough, like really, 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 really far, and watches everything from there, uh, do you think he'll like get to the point where he's like at the climactic battle and said, "Oh shit, I probably should have been taking notes."
Zach, goodbye.
Bye.